Sitaram, Swagatam, and welcome to another episode of the Hindu Perspective. This is a special program of the Board of Swaha here on IETV. I'm Panditishwar Madhu Maharaj, the Secretary of the Dharma Mandal, and I thank you for joining with us, and I do hope that you will remain with us for the next hour or so as we explore various contemporary issues facing our society and, in fact, the world. We have a very special topic and wonderful program lined up for our viewers today. And to tell you more about the program and our guest, Pandit, one of our leaders on today, will be Pandit Jaidat. But before I go over to Pandit Jaidat Maharaji, I do ask, as we always begin, we start with our prayer, that we join together. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Ganganapate Namaha. Boli Shri Gajanan Swami Ki Jai, Swaha Mata Ki Jai. Pandit.
Thank you, Panditishwar, and welcome to our viewers to the Hindu Perspective. And today, as was mentioned, we have with us a special guest, and I'll just take the opportunity to introduce the panel. We have, of course, Panditishwar, who will have started our program. As usual, we have Pandit Gyandev, who is a member of the Dharmandal and the Board of Directors of SWAHA. And our special guest today is Pandit Professor Prakash Prasad, who is the chairman of the Board of SWAHA, as well as the president of UTT, someone who is highly qualified and will be taking a significant lead in the discussions in today's program. Today, we are going to continue on a topic that we introduced last week, which is really the current global issue that we are seeing, this war between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, there are many different perspectives. And again, our program is based on the Hindu perspective. What is it that Hinduism, what does our scripture tell us about what we see in these global events? And what we're observing is that while this war is taking place, that there are many other countries who have decided, for reasons that may be unknown to us, that they are not going to intervene. And we have linked that to some of the instances that we have seen in our scriptures, and to give us a little bit of the Hindu perspective and link it to what we are seeing, we'll pass over to Pandit Gyandev, and after, of course, we'll move on to our special guest, Pandit Prakash, and we'll continue our discussions. And before I pass over to Pandit Gyandev, remember at any time, any of the viewers you wish to call into the program, you can call at 223-1601, or if you prefer, you send in messages at 470-8103. So we pass over to Pandit Gyandev.
Thank you, Pandit Jaidat. Sitaram to all. And leadership is one of the most important aspects in our religion. You can take it from the Gita or from the Ramayana. Krishna Bhagavan in the Gita has said that he very beautifully in chapter 3, he says, there is no duty in all three worlds for me to perform, nor are there anything worth attaining unattained by me, yet I continue to work. In other words, he's saying that we all have to do what we are supposed to do. So he's equating leadership with duty. One understands the concept of leadership is actually performing his duty. The duty one is supposed to perform is according to the station in life, according to Krishna Bhagavan. So in this circumstance, if you take Zelensky, he's the leader of our country, that is his duty to lead the country. And part of that leadership role is to lead the country and to do what is best for the country. So many people ask, why is he fighting this war, allowing his people to get killed by thousands or hundreds? Why is he engaging in that? Because it is his duty to stand up for the right of the people. He's the president of the country. So it is why you're leader of a political party, leader of a cricket team, or leader in a home. It's your duty to do what you're supposed to do. So Krishna Bhagavan equates leadership with duty. And he says there are certain elements of leadership which you must know, which is know thyself. Now in Trinidad and in the world, many people misinterpret leadership to be in position of power. If I'm in a position of power, people listen to me, I have the power to chastise you. Doesn't mean that's leadership. So leadership has many facets which we'll engage and divulge and dissect and see what really is leadership. Not just power, not just because I say so. So I'm a political leader, I say so, you follow me. I'm the captain of the team, I say so, you follow me. I am whatever it is. Leadership is not just saying things and how people follow you, but actually let them buy into your message. True leadership is sharing a message with people and let them see what you want them to see, and for their benefit, not for your benefit. So leadership is not leading people to your way, but leading people to the right way. So we'll go for a discussion. I said we have today with us the president of UTT. He's a leader in that respect, and he has people under him. In that situation, it comes again. You have private and public. If in the public sector, you have to follow. In the private sector, you may say, I'm not following that. You may, decide not to follow. There are rules and regulations saying not follow your leader in certain circumstances. But in this case, we are talking about people who are true leaders and get people to follow them. But a leader of a trade union, I'm not calling leader of a trade union. They use the word leader very loosely. So we'll get into it really. Thank you, Jaidat. This is the perspective from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where we say leadership is what you do is your duty for the benefit of persons, public generally speaking. Panditji.
So thank you very much, Pandit Gyandev. And, we have gotten his opening contribution, and we'll hear more about it because as questions start to come in, of course, we'll share it with the panel and each panelist will give their views. So at this time, we want to invite our special guests, and some things have been said about leadership. And we pass over to the chairman of the board, Pandit Professor Prakash Prasad, to make his contributions at this time.
Thank you, Pandit Jaidat, Sitaram, the viewers and the panelists here. Firstly, let me say it's a pleasure being here. And let me compliment you all on a wonderful program that this really serves to inform the public at large, here and abroad, on the issues of leadership from a Hindu perspective. So again, let me congratulate you on that. Now, Pandit Gyandev indicated, and quite correctly so, that leadership is about duty. And it leads to the idea that, sometimes people get confused between what is a leader, who is a leader, and who is a manager. And there's a very nice saying that says, managers must do things right, but the leader ought to do the right thing. And to do the right thing, that's what leadership is about. It's about your duty. It's defined or it's premised on your duty, but it's also premised on your ethical framework. And this is something that or moral framework, if you prefer. When we say ethical, we tend to take it out of the realm of religion, etc. But ethics are derived from religion. There's no denying that. And just to use your example at the beginning for both Pandit Jaidat and Pandit Gyandev, that in the Bhagavad Gita, or maybe we were talking about this before, that Bhagavan Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when he gave his message to Arjuna, was a message to stand up for what is right, do his duty. Now, it ties the other point that Pandit Gyandev made about leadership. So leadership includes the person and the position. An unworthy person in a leadership position does more harm than good. And a true leader, whatever position he has, he can influence people, because the big thing about leadership is influence by your own sort of moral and ethical behavior and standards. And that point, in case in point, in the war, Bhagavan Krishna was not a combatant. He was not a leader in the war. But because of who he was and what he stood for, he had great leadership influence. So I think this is something we need to look at and discuss a bit more.
All right. So thank you for your opening comments, Pandit Prakash. And so we have. I mean, if we had to summarize it, what we are saying based on what Pandit Prakash is saying, Pandit Gyandev, is that position doesn't necessarily mean power. Or positions can give you power, but there's what we call referent power, and there's positional power. There's power that comes because I sit in a position. So I may be sitting as the head of a state, that gives me some power. And then there's referent power, which really is that which inspires. And then throughout the organization, which serves many different communities. We see many examples of that. And we know that, we want to get some views from Pandit Ishwar also, that the Swaha Hindu College has always been a topic that comes up in every single week that we have a discussion. And in terms of, the type of leadership that has been displayed at the school, where, all of these accolades are given, if Pandit Ishwar, as the head of that institution, the speaker of the past and the present, what type of leadership is practiced there, and what do you see as the benefits, and how does this redound to the students and benefit the students, and what are some of the indications of those things?
Okay, thank you, Pandit Jaidat. So that actually is a very tough job to ask the certain principal to speak about the type of leadership, right? It may be easier for others to speak about what they see, but certainly I could speak about the leaders that I have worked under, and then certainly this is the way in which we carry the school forward. So you may call it visionary leadership of some of the past principles that we have had, or some may term it now transformational leadership, wanting to bring about certain change, big change, positive changes in the community, not just in the school, but we see whatever we do as being able to effect change within the community. So it's about creating and inspiring others through a vision, so that they can realize something and know that in the future their lives will be better. So it's about motivating, inspiring people. And in many respects, it's about helping to build a team, building a strong team that can help you to achieve that vision and to achieve the goals that you have set out. And certainly at Swaha Hindu College, we have created over the past leadership, the tenure of Pandit Balram Prasad, and then under Pandit Gyandev Prasadji, and of course led by the other Pandits, including Pandit Professor Prakash Prasad and the Paramacharya, Pandit Hardev Prasad, and others. These are leaders within our own organization that would have given us certain ideas and helped to show us the way towards building a team that we think is cohesive, that can and work together towards achieving our vision. And the vision, of course, is to be the best school in the Northeastern Division. But we say, even within the country, there are certain things that we believe we are leading others in, having implemented certain policies, things like daily yoga and meditation, having exemplary record when it comes to discipline, and even an exemplary academic record. There's still room for improvement, but of course we are striving for perfection. And I'm saying that creation of a team that works together for the common good, for one cause then, which is to ensure that our school remains at the top, for the benefit of all stakeholders within the community, is something that I think we have been fairly successful at, and we are constantly working at it. Right? I'm not sure if that answers totally what you were asking, Pandit Jaidat, but this is how I see it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know of the success of the school, and of course, we wanted a better understanding of how the leadership in the context of what is being discussed here, fits in and is being practiced at the school. So one of the topics we want to discuss, and it's will after this point, all of the panelists will make their contribution. We'll take a break and we'll come back again. Is this idea of what you call spiritual leadership? Now, we have heard about traditionally authoritarian leaders, etc., which are not terms that we hear so much again. We hear about authentic leadership. We hear about, spiritual leadership. And many say it's really the same. Is that ability to inspire others and to bring that out. But sometimes when you hear the word spiritual, we just associate that with something that may be religious, and we take it out of the secular. We believe that there isn't a place in the secular. Now, again, this is based on our own perspective. So that maybe this time we can start with Pandit Prakash, being a secular institution and the leader of that institution, at that position as president. What is your view on this idea of spiritual leadership, and does it have a place in the secular areas of our society?
Thank you, Panditji. That's Interesting question. I have a different, perspective on it. So let me say, firstly, when I was appointed, I told the board that I've never done a management course in my life. Whatever leadership I acquired, I call it intuitive leadership, and that intuitive leadership means that you know what is right, you know what is wrong. Now, to know what is right or wrong intuitively, I would put that squarely in how I got that, how I developed that capacity for my being a pundit over many years and working within Swaha and being, intimately involved, being a son of the Shankaracharya Swaha and then a younger brother Paramachar, where you see what you do is right. So if what you do is correct, you're, like I said at the beginning, your ethical standards or your moral standards, right, is important. So that gives you a certain degree of credibility that people believe you. Or if you want to use more current, sort of top terms, you have, your personal capital as a person. So like when I give an example, when I started at UTT, we had just undergone a huge retrenchment exercise. Hundreds of people got retrenched. People were unhappy. People were unsettled. And my view to them, I said, I cannot change the past. But what I can tell you, going forward, I'll be honest with you. I won't lie to you. I'll be transparent and I'll keep my word. Whatever I tell you, whether we like it or not, but you will know the truth. And I think so that builds capacity with people, builds relationships with people, is using your own, like I say, personal capital. And that can only come about, like I say, from what you term a spiritual leadership. Because spiritual leadership, you can't be, we have this idea in the West that we have a person as a public person, a person as a private person, etc. And I'm saying, no, you're one person. It affects all the facets of your life. And I use an example, it might not be the most appropriate here, but I will say it nevertheless. If you're a thief in your private life, you're obviously a thief in your public life. You can't separate it. You're one person, and therefore, if you have, good ethical, like say, moral, training background, you come up with that. So it helps you. So to summarize it quickly, I think I've been able to work there and actually, without being, egoistic, command a fair amount of respect because I kept my word and I intend to keep on my word. And that comes from my spiritual background. It makes you a complete person.
All right, so thanks, Pandit. So what you're saying is that in terms of your authentic self, there is no separation. For you, this spirit, what you see as spiritual values, those things are translated into your secular life and your personal life also. So thank you very much, Panditji, for sharing that, and I'll pass over to Pandit Gyanev to share his views on this issue.
Thank you, Jairat. I just want to quote from the Gita, where Krishna Bhagavan again says that if you stop acting, the world will come to an end. He has nothing to achieve really, but he's continue acting. And that brings in a most important point. Dr. Prakash mentioned, Professor Prakash mentioned, is that you must be truthful to yourself and to the people you are leading. And this is one of your problems. And this is why today this country and many countries are not going in the right direction. So because why? God and goodness is not the foundation of the actions. A good leader is one who removes arrogance and ignorance and is open-minded. How many of our leaders are like that? So in other words, simply put, it may sound difficult to achieve, but to be a good leader, you must have good grounding in spirituality. And spirituality does not mean, what spirituality means? The benefits of spirituality, or it means that which is good, which is for the benefit of all. Where that way is selfless practice. We take, for instance, right now we have a big debate going on, not in these words, nationalization versus privatization. Previously, we were very proud to say this is our heritage. Last week we discussed that, the national emblems, national treasures. So you find Petrotrin, we are proud to say we want to own Petrotrin. You're proud to say we want to own a refinery. Now we say, give it up. We're proud to say we want to have certain institutions in the country which belongs to us, because we as a people, not to any one individual. Privatization means it goes to a few individuals. Nationalization means everybody. The nation benefits under the guidance of astute leadership. So we have to consider those things: privatization and nationalization under leadership. And if you have the wrong leaders, then what will happen? From nationalization, remember last week we spoke about the pledge, and we said what? I solemnly pledge to dedicate my life to the service of God. I eventually became what? To the service of my God. So it becomes very egoistic and self-centered. So we'll continue discussion as we continue nationalization versus privatization in leadership qualities in the country.
Thank you, Panagyandev. And at this point, we take a break and we'll see you back in a few minutes.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the Board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m. Are you interested in becoming a news reporter? ITV Newsroom is offering internships. Send your resume to news@itvtt.com.
Welcome back to the Hindu Perspective to our viewers. And remember that if you would like to share your messages, you can WhatsApp 470-8103, or you can call in at 223-1601. And when you get the messages, of course, for the last part of the program, we summarize them and we present them to the panelists, for their views. So that we have been talking about the whole question of spiritual leadership, which sometimes seems to be separated from that area of secular. We have heard from Panit Prakash, Panit Gandhi, when we have Panit Ishwar, who himself is the head of our high school. And of course, in any school, you have the secular, you have the spiritual, both are practiced. But Panit Ishwar, if you can give us some insight on how both of these are brought together at this school.
Right, thank you, Panditji. So I prefer to go to Sri Ram Manas, to Ramayana, and draw some parallels. And in fact, it shows how, spiritual and secular, we could apply these principles across both fields then. So an important part of leadership and, ensuring that as a leader, of course, you're the head of a team in effect. But that team, you have to ensure that you have the right people with you. Identify the skills of each individual. And people are different. All the people within the organization, within the country, let's say even the government. Recently, we saw a reshuffling of the cabinet. I am not here to judge, but I'm asking, were the right people in your mind put in certain positions, right? So there was a lot of surprise when we saw certain ministers being removed and replaced with others. And you saw memes and different things being shared on Facebook and via WhatsApp. So it's instructive. I mean, for us, we're talking about leadership and we are seeing certain things taking place in our own country and internationally. And I give a couple of examples. When Sri Ram had to build a bridge to go to Lanka, of course, he of course employed the help of Nal and Neil, who we may say the first, civil engineers then to build that bridge by writing the name of Sri Ram. He enlisted the help of Hanumanji and so many others. So tasks were delegated to the people who, in effect, were best qualified, perhaps, to act in that way. And then even, I think when we started out, I think Panagyandev made the point that in Ukraine, Zelensky is trying. They are being attacked unjustly, we may say, by Russia and the Russian forces. But very importantly, it's a time for allies to come together and support in whatever way they can, because there are people who are suffering. And we see even in Sri Ram Manas, Sri Ram formed alliances. He couldn't do it on his own. He's the divine father, he's the Lord. Perhaps we may say he could have, but he enlisted the help of Raja Sugriv, Hanumanji, Vibhishan even, Angad, Nal and Neel, and so many others. So forming alliances with the right people is an important aspect of leadership. We see countries coming together, whether it's NATO or within the European Union and right here in CARICOM, but that leadership, that level of leadership that takes people forward, takes humanity forward, quite often is sorely lacking. We don't see that high, integrity among our leaders. And again, I'm saying I'm not here to pass judgment, but I'm asking questions. We are provoking your thought. So I'm saying alliance is important with the right people and delegating tasks, finding the right people to do specific roles. That's extremely critical. And these are things that we try to do even at the school and within SWAHA to ensure that we move forward. Panaji?
Okay, thank you very much, Panditishwar. So we have a question from one of our viewers, and again, this will be posed to all of the panelists, and it has to do with the idea of Bhagavad Gita. So the question circles around this idea of war, and again, that is what is on the global agenda. When I say the agenda, that is what is most current. This war that is taking place between Russia and Ukraine. Some are saying that, well, it is justified from the side of Russia. Others are saying it is not. And I guess that's everybody's personal view based on your own understanding of the geopolitics and all of those factors. But what the person is saying is that in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna always told Arjuna that you need to fight. Many times, he is painted in the light of being a warmonger, while we see him as a leader. And that Arjun, while he had that ability to intervene in that battle, he had that skill to end the war, to destroy that which is evil, that he was willing to stand on his side. And we are saying that it is through that instrumentality of Sri Krishna Bhagwan that he was able to take up arms and, of course, win that war on the side of righteousness. So the question that is really being asked is that, how do you equate this when you have persons who are sitting on the side and a war is taking place and there's no intervention? And secondly, this is your Sri Krishna, where he is being painted by many as someone who encourages war. And this idea of war and killing, which, we see many times in scriptures. We know it's a different society, but how do we take those lessons that would happen so many years ago and bring it and make sense of it in today's society? I know it's a very involved, complicated questions, but we have an intelligent panel, so that again, we can start with our specialist, our special guest today, Pandit Prakash.
Thank you, Pandit Jaidat. It is a complicated question. I will start by saying that leadership and in making decisions in leadership, or leader makes decisions. It's a very complicated process in the sense that you have to weigh many factors, a lot of issues, right, from different quarters, but also you have to look at the past and the present and the future. So bring it to point with the war in Ukraine. So some people are saying to India, which side are you on? And if you don't take a side now, you will be on the wrong side of history. Well, I don't know. History, when it is written, we'll see. But I understand the Indians' position. And to give some context to that, in 1971, when India went to the aid of what is now Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, where the Bangladeshis were being slaughtered and really given a raw deal, very raw deal, and they appealed to India to help. India, in fact, supplied arms and then actually got involved in the conflict as a background. Having said that, then the West and the US in particular, they were allies of Pakistan for their own benefit, because they saw Pakistan as a bulwark against Russia, then the Soviet Union, and the US sent a variety of armed ships, armed armada to the Bay of Bengal. They were prevented from interfering by a Russian armada that went before them and blocked the US ships from coming to the coast of India. So in the past, the Russians would have helped the Indians, and for a just cause in 1971. Now, I'm not saying what the Russians are doing now is correct. Certainly not. Slaughtering innocent people for whatever reasons of grandeur, empire, etc., is not good. You know, but Indians look at the past and say, "Hey, that is what leadership was about." That a friend then, should I not at least bear that in mind? Because leadership and as a human being, gratitude is important. So that's why India say, "Hey, maybe they're behaving bad now, but they were helpful to us in the past. Should we ignore that?" So, like I said, leadership is a to make decisions in leadership, right? That is complex, a lot of factors. It calls for a great amount of thought. And in fact, what it did that in terms of this present situation. With regard to the other aspect of Bhagavan Krishna being a warmonger, I think that is, sorry for the word, that's nonsense. Mahatma Gandhi didn't fight. And fighting a war does not necessarily mean shooting and bombing. Right now, the Russians are shooting and bombing the Ukrainians. The Western allies are waging an economic war on Russia in response. So in Mahatma Gandhi's case, his war was, "I'm not going to fight you." In fact, he said so in Britain. When asked if he was going to lose the battle against Britain, he said, "I'm not fighting any battle. How can I lose?" So in his case, the weapon he was using was non-aggression and non-violence. That is fighting also. And the last point is that the person who says he's a warmonger, we have to ask yourself the question, if you're being attacked, your people will be attacked, would you not need to stand up for it? How is that being a warmonger? That is standing, unless you think that life is of no value, which can't be the case. Eh? So I hope that this will put some clarity on that question.
Thank you, Panditji. And of course, we are here to get the perspectives and from the experts. And definitely that would have answered some of the questions that were asked. I'll pass over to Pandit Gyandev, to give your views on the contribution by the person who would have sent this message.
Thank you, Pandit Jairat. First of all, whether the war took place 1700 years ago, 2000 years ago, or the war is taking place now, if he asks what is the purpose, what is the proximate cause of wars in the past, in the present, wars are fought, have been fought primarily for possession, for protection, and for righteousness. Zelensky put it very beautifully. We are a sovereign state. We are fighting to say what is ours. Krishna Bhagwan is telling Arjuna the same thing. All the wars in the past, whether it be between Pakistan and India, whether it be between Poland and Russia, or Poland and Germany, whoever, they're fighting to say what is theirs, what is considered sacred. Now, if you have no sense of purpose, if you have you don't know what you're doing, where you're going, where you're coming from, what is yours, then you have no direction in life. But the mere fact that you know what is yours, you know what you want to achieve, and know where you want to head, then it means you have to stand up. And we can't be naive and think that Mahatma Gandhi, Professor Prakash mentioned Mahatma Gandhi, I have a different opinion on him. If he doesn't want to stand up like his business, because he sat down there and said non-violence. It's ironic, it's very ironic that he's preaching non-violence and how he died, 3 bullets in his chest. So what does that tell us? Karma, give him the lesson. Don't preach foolishness blindly. So you have to stand up and fight what is yours. Take it, move forward. Don't be the aggressor, but don't be dormant and don't be stupid and say, no, Zelensky should have said, no, right, Russia will take us, let's go ahead. No. But what India will say, Pakistan will take our Kashmir, then they go Punjab, then they go Delhi. No, it's not like that. We have to stand up and fight what is ours. That's what I call a righteous war. Righteous means we are doing our duty. Our duty is to save the land. I'm a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. If war breaks out in Trinidad, well, it's kind of ironic. Our army here may not be able to stand up against anything. But if war breaks out in Trinidad, we have to fight. What will fight? Who will fight? So we have to say, what? Leadership tells us that let us join and say what is ours. Good sense of purpose. I know Ishwar is speaking, my mind go back. He said he passed principles of Soha in college. You know, many politicians, before election, you see them walking about all about. They walk in like they exercise them daily. After election, you can't see them. And this is one of the hallmarks of a weak leader. A good leader does not sit in the office. I can remember distinctly. Ishwar does it, IEC did it, Balam did it. We are in an air-conditioned office, but we don't sit on there whole day. We come outside, go to the classrooms, go to the savannah, go to the cafeteria, go outside and see where action is going on really, where we are needed, not in the office that sit down and trying to make decisions. So the point comes back. The good leaders get involved with the activities of the people. And when they see something has to be done, they do it. We have to do that kind of leadership. We have in Swaha, or Shankaracharya was like that. Those who know him, every temple was built. He went, opened the temple, he made contributions. He got hands-on involvement in leadership. Hands-on, not just sitting in the Shankaracharya office as well. I'm the headman, I can do what I want. No. So we are propagating that over Krishna Bhagavan. And it's not about fighting a war, it's about stand up for righteousness. This is what Krishna Bhagavan said. And we all have to do the same thing. Now crime is high. If a man comes to your house with a gun to put it by your family's head, you'll say, oh God, well, let him take what you want. Stand and fight. Call the police, do what you're supposed to do. In a decent way that you protect yourself, protect what is yours, and at the same time, let the people know that you're no pushover. So leadership, Krishna Bhagavan is saying, stand up and fight for what is right, what is rightfully yours, and what belongs to you. What is your duty to protect and carry on. So I'll pass it on Padishwar. That is something which you'll elaborate upon. The leadership of Swaha gets involved with schools, with the temples, with institutions. Padishwar, he is a leader right on Swahili College. Panditji.
Thanks. Thank you, Panditji. Panditji said it quite nicely, Panigandeo. And I wanted to just answer the question to Pandit Jaidat, right? And agreeing with sentiments that were expressed before also. The fact that Sri Krishna Bhagwan, or an individual is asking whether we could say, he is a warmonger. War, the way I see it, is justified, or is meant really. I shouldn't say justified, but is meant if we engage in a battle against, those who represent evil, negative forces, then injustice, if injustice is taking place, is not meant to terrorize people, is not meant to be the aggressor against people who are innocent. So this is what we are seeing currently, where it's as though one nation or one culture really are oppressing others. So thousands of years ago, when there was the Mahabharat war, it was clearly a case of the Lord, as he said, yada yada hi dharmasya, coming time and time again, each age, to overcome those forces of unrighteousness, adharma, that were in the ascendancy. So if the battle or the war is to be waged against those who are unjust, unrighteous, adharmic, in that sense, we can say that, one may not incur that sin. And Sri Krishna Bhagwan was right, of course, and in accordance with our scriptures in telling Arjuna to fight. But on the other hand, it's quite unfair, unjust, inhumane to, propagate war, encourage war, and terrorize others and oppress others, as we are seeing happening in Ukraine. That's just what I wanted to say with that.
All right. Thank you very much, Panditishwar. And I mean, if I can just give my own views on this, and one or two things that was said stands out. And I know in the case of Mahatma Gandhi, in reading the biography of Gandhi, he made certain statements that, he fought different battles. Yes, he fought against the British, non-violent, what was called Satyagraha. But he said he also fought against, the mindset of the people of India. So that, you would see this picture where he would be sitting and spinning the wheel. And the idea of that was to get the Indians to be less dependent. So as Pandit Prakash rightly said, in my view, something I connected to that he said is that wars are not always fought with weapons or with bullets and all of those things. So that is something that we take into consideration, that, and if you're linking the leadership to war, even for ourselves, self-governance, self-leadership will prevent some of these negative qualities. So I think that is something, a positive that we can draw from the life of Mahatma Gandhi, that, when he tried to fight war, the idea was that, okay, it doesn't have to be a war that is fought with weapons, but the mindset. And we are talking about the reflection of these things in our scriptures. And even in Lanka Khan, when that discussion between Vibhishan and Sri Ram took place, when Vibhishan, he was disconcerted, looking at Sri Ram and seeing that he only had the loincloth and the sandal, and Ravan had all of these weapons. And that discourse that we all know well, where Sri Ram went to explain that, the war that is fought is not a physical war. It's a war of the mind and certain qualities and characteristics that we all should develop. And if we are to do those things, that is self-leadership. And we develop those type of qualities, and as Pandit Prakash mentioned, those are spiritual qualities. And if we develop those in ourselves, we become self-regulated, self-governance, governed, then of course, some of the external wars, hopefully we see less of that. And of course, the society then was different. In Sri Ram days, in Sri Krishna days, now they are laws, right? So we can't just go around fighting and killing others and all of those things. So I just wanted to contribute that. And it is 5:12, so I think that we should take our final break, and then we'll come back with 1 or 2 questions again for the panelists, their final comments, and that will bring us to the end of the program, so that we'll see you, our viewers, in 2 minutes.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the Board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m. Are you interested in becoming a news reporter? ITV Newsroom is offering internships. Send your resume to news@itvtt.com.
Welcome back to our viewers to the Hindu Perspective. And today, again, just to remind you of our panelists, we have Professor Pandit Prakash Prasad, Chairman of the Board of SWAHA, President of UTT. We have Pandit Gyandev, member of the board, and we have Pandit Ishwar Madhu Maharaj, who is the principal of the SWAHA Hindu College. And so far, we have had some very engaging discussion on this idea of leadership, based on what we are seeing in the world. And of course, we are linking it to what is the Hindu perspective. Now, we have started answering some of our questions, and one question came up out of the discussions by one of our viewers, and it is really this issue of what we call ethics. Now, everyone defines ethics in a different way. Ethics are defined as right is right, and you do right regardless of the circumstances. And then in other cases, right or wrong is really dependent on circumstances. And regardless of if there may be collateral damage and all of that. And what the question really says, and I'm trying to summarize it, what really circles around is this issue of even Sri Krishna, where it was stated in certain parts of Bhagavad Gita, and our viewers, they hear a lot, they do a lot of reading, that he would have engaged in some practices that the world would consider unethical. But at the end of the day, the intention is that, the Kauravas, they would have had to be destroyed. And all of that speaks to the different type of ethics that exist. Is it that, Hinduism, is it one, is it the other, is it both? Is it based on the idea that right is right? Or is it based on the idea that, right or wrong is circumstantial? So I know that the issue of ethics was raised by Pandit Prakash again, and he being our guest and our expert in this area. I'll, pass over to him first to make his contribution.
Thank you, Pandit Jairat. Thank you, Pandit Jairat. Before I comment on that, let me indicate, whilst I have the greatest regard and respect, and I appreciate what Pandit Gandhi said, Mahatma Gandhi, and I also say I am not a big fan of him, but when we examine what he did, it was very practical. That how do you fight the most powerful empire in the world without weapons, without a defined army, without resources? And what he did was saying, is doing his duty as a leader, saying, look, if I tell you to go and fight, you're going to be shot and killed. If we use morality in this case, or sort of guilt, if you want to use in a more practical way, of the world and what happens if you beat us that way. And that is what happened there, that the world looked at the Britain and says, why are you beating these people this way? So his approach was practical and also it was in line with the Gita. I would admit that later on maybe he overdid it in trying to extend a hand to others to the detriment of Hindus. And maybe he paid the price for that. But that is a separate issue. Now, with regard to ethics, about being absolute right and absolute wrong. In Hinduism, when we make decisions in life, Hinduism looks at what we call multi-state decision making. In fact, it's a huge thing in the world now, where we look at artificial intelligence, that is, everything would not be binary, right or wrong, black or white. It was the famous saying, many shades of gray. Right? There's a famous book, 50 Shades of Grey, and actually a million shades of grey. So what we need to do, you need to balance the situation where you are. Have your basic principle at the core, but go forward. And I will give a simple example of this. Now, as Itihas, we have heard, about the sadhu who says he doesn't hurt anybody. He's walking in a desert, he meets a scorpion, says, my duty as a sadhu is to save lives. He took up the scorpion in his hand. The scorpion don't think. It acts. It reflexively started to sting him. Now the sadhu said, as Itihas goes, that my duty is to do what is right. The scorpion's duty, but I don't think it was the scorpion's duty, was the scorpion's reflex, innate, sort of characteristics to sting. Now, to my mind, I think the sadhu was being foolish and egoistic. He didn't consider his life. What he could have done, he could have broke out the tail of the scorpion. So the scorpion wouldn't have died. Neither would he have died. And go forward. So what I'm saying is this idea about black or white or right or wrong, that I cannot hurt another animal or another organism, cause his life to the detriment of his life. So he's saying, I don't want to kill the scorpion, but I will get killed. How is that sensible? So this is where this idea of absolutes come in, okay? And that's why, at the end of this, in Hinduism, we talk about the gunas. So nobody is totally bad. Nobody is totally good. We are a mixture of good and evil, and we have to make decisions in that way. See, Ravan wasn't absolutely bad. He should pray to Lord Shiva. It's not so. He was a devotee. And if he was that bad, how come he died at the hands of the Lord himself? And we talk about him today. So this idea, to put it simply, Hinduism does not believe in black or white or binary state in the world. Decision making is a lot more complex than that.
Okay, thank you for your views and your explanations, Pandit Prakash, and Pandit Gyandev. We'll pass over to you.
My mind goes back to a statement made by ex-Prime Minister Trinidad and Tobago. He says politics has a morality of its own. And he was condemned, criticized, or supported for his statement. But in truth and speaking, in every area of endeavor, there are morals. And morality and ethics are linked together. Ethics is basically morals. So that you find in, let's say, for instance, in cricket, if someone bowls a bouncer, I was watching the movie 83, where India won the World Cup. We have to watch the next movie, Kashmir 5, when that comes to Radiats, where in the issue where it's bowling, and the Indian batsman got bouncer in his face, knocked out, blood coming down. Now, normally they hit a man and he falls down, and blood comes out. It's violence, arrogance. You call that, what do you call that? Violence, right? But in cricket, you hit a man, a bouncer, hit him in his head, his mouth, his belly, and that's technique, strategy. So morality and ethics according to the situation. So in a war, when a man has a machine in his hand, he go out there and kill. That's wrong. According to war, the rules of war, that's correct. This is why Krishna went to Arjuna go and fight. So in each area, a teacher in a class, chastising a child, not punishing physically, but trying to correct the child. But you say that is wrong. So in each area, morality, it is something which applies to each situation, each circumstance. And Pandit Dr. Prakash Prasad made the point, there are three gunas. So you deal with account to that. Satyam, Satya, truth, whether what you're doing is truthful, whether it's evil, whether it's in ignorance. And many people act in ignorance. And so you have to decide ethics and morality. So you find Trinidad, the law is not there. In some countries, you have the law where you have euthanasia. In some countries, you have hanging. Some countries do have it. Which is right, which is wrong. You have laws all over the place. So, come circumstance, we in Trinidad have to make laws for what we want to do achieve. And go back to, in my mind, go back to last week's discussion, which you can't go into again. But we are saying, Krishna Bhagavan said in the Gita, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It's the attitude towards it and how you approach it. Simply, this is why they use the word drug abuse. Drug is not bad. They use drugs in many positive ways. But some person take drugs and damage themselves, damage their future, then becomes bad. So morality is attached to that kind of situation where it goes with the circumstance. And then we can make a judgment as to what should be done, morality or ethics. So ethics is very flexible. And every situation, I will agree with the ex-Prime Minister, each area has a morality of its own. Cricket has a morality of its own. Everything has a morality of its own. We can't do that. I'll pass it upon Ishwar to expound again. Faniji.
Yes. Thank you, Paniji. And I agree totally with Panigande and even Professor Prakash, you went before, in that it's not just as simple as saying yes or no, black or white. Yes, indeed, there are times when we may be a little bit flexible, or the term now is fluid in terms of how you approach certain situations. So when Sri Krishna advised Arjun that you must take up arms and fight, he didn't want to fight, as we all know, but seeing his cousins, his friends, in fact, his own guru was on the other side, but he had to engage in the battle. He had to take up arms and fight. It was his bounden duty to do so. And Lord Krishna would advise him. And I'm saying, fighting a battle for a just cause, for righteousness against those who are unjust, adharmic. Of course, in that case, being advised to do certain actions that we may say are unethical, goes against, common decency and morality as we know it, in such a situation is justified. But in today's world, today's society, I want to bring in another aspect of, our own moral compass and ethics, as it were. It's quite easy to fall in with the wrong crowd and follow the wrong set of people. And why is it that, it's just human nature, our people, and I don't mean, Hindu people in general, across humanity, then across the world, you follow certain leaders who, how to put it, they're no good for you. They're not good for you, but you follow them anyway, because there's something about them where there's charisma, something enigmatic about them that makes you, you're attracted to them, like the North Star flame. And in the end, you will end up suffering and die, but you are going and following them. They have won over your confidence. And that is a very scary thing that is happening in Trinidad and across this world. And we see it again, we are linking a lot to what is taking place in Europe, right? A lot of people, and we are not here to condemn any country that decides to support or any that decides not to support, but we are seeing others, making judgment, passing certain judgment. And in the end, we are seeing others who are trusting blindly and following certain leaders, and perhaps to their detriment. So I'm saying it's interesting how many leaders are able to win the confidence easily, by just twisting certain things to their favor, in their favor. Where's the moral compass? Where's your morality and ethics that you have been taught every single day of your life, but we end up doing something else? Panaji?
Thank you very much, Pandit Ishwar and members of the panel. Thank you very much, Pandit Ishwar and members of the panel, for your views. So I think that the consensus is that there are no black or white, there are areas of gray, and in particular, we weren't able to read all of the message, but there were instances in Bhagavad Gita and that war where ethics of war were broken. And that was the only way that the war could have been won. But ultimately, the cause was a just cause. So I think we are saying that in those circumstances, based on the situation, whether a lie was told or some untruth, and that was the only way, or hiding behind someone and shooting at someone else to destroy them, that was the only way that this war could have been won. But at the end of the day, it was a righteous war. So that the rules of ethics, and it reminds me of this movie, I put Marvati, if that's the right name, on the battlefield when a fight was fought, but at the end of it, unethical decisions were made. And, the statement was made that, if in war you are unethical, and the statement made otherwise that the only ethic in war is victory. So it's just a matter of different views. So as we wrap up this evening, we started discussing this issue of leadership and what is happening globally. And we spoke about the issues of morality, leadership, ethics. Those were two major areas that came together. We have about just 1 minute remaining or so, 1 or 2 minutes. So
I just want to,
final comments,
if I may, if I may, I want to add one thing that is very fundamental to our establishment. That is something which is new to Trinidad and Tobago. SWAH has introduced what is called shared leadership. In our organization, SWAH, there is called shared leadership. In another organization, you have one man, like a political party. One man is the big honcho. And SWAH has introduced shared leadership. We'll discuss this another time. But it's something to note very, very, very seriously. Shared leadership.
Thank you very much, Panditji. And we have 2 minutes. Pandit Prakash, as our special guest, would you like to, Pandit Prakash, would you like to take a minute or so and share your closing comments?
Sure, Panditji. I think it's been a very useful discussion. It's a topic that needs a lot more time to elaborate fully. But what has come out clearly is that, in decision making, to make the right decisions, I think the ethical framework, as I started by saying that comes from your religious tradition. I can speak for myself. That the Ramayana, to me, guided my whole life, and up till now, it guides me in decisions I made, because I think Prabhu Shri Ram, epitomized ethical leadership and good leadership.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Panditji, and we are very grateful to have you on the panel. And I'll pass over to Pandit Ishwar as final comments and, of course, a close of our program first.
Thank you, Pandit Jaidat. And I want to agree with Pandit Prakash. And quite often, and you would notice it regularly in our program here, we quote from the Bhagavad Gita, we quote from the Vedas, but in particular, we quote from Ramayana. And we look at Sri Ram for guidance. I would have alluded to certain things, formation of alliances, ensuring that you delegate to the right people, honing, developing the skills of certain people. These are characteristics of, good leadership. And I am encouraging our viewers, if you're in an organization, try to encourage those around you to practice what we know, what we would have discussed here as being elements of good leadership. Try to build that team around you that, of course, will ensure success. I think we have had a wonderful program, and perhaps we will be continuing with some elements of this in future programs. And I want to encourage our viewers also, remember, this is a period of Karwas, and as leaders of SWAHA, we are reminding you, it's our duty to remind you, of course, from the 1st of April, April 1st, an important day, the start of the Hindu New Year, start of Navratri. I do hope that you're preparing your homes and your minds also for that very important period of Navratri. And we'll speak more about that next week. I want to thank everyone for joining with us. We thank the members of the panel, Pandit Prakash Ji, Pandit Gyandev Ji, Pandit Jaidat Maharaj, and we do hope that you'll be with us again next week. Sitaram.